Welcome to Tank Talk, folks. So excited to be back with you again here today with my lovely wife, Lisa. It's always a good time to have her here with me because I tend to go a little wild when she's not here, do some crazy things. Today, we're going to talk about tanks crashing, the aquarium crashing, how you can prevent it, how you can see that it's about to happen, what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen, which would be the same as how to prevent it. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. But like always, before we get into that, we don't have anything to update you on. We don't have any updates for today. It's hard. We like to record these in batches, and sometimes it's difficult to figure out what are we going to be updating people on 3 weeks from now. So what I'll say is this. We are filming this on September 1st. We just got done with...
Woohoo! It's pumpkin spice season.
Yeah, yes. Sure. We just finished the month of August, which is known in the aquarium industry as the worst month for our industry. So, as it being September 1st, I don't know what the date is going to be when this actually goes up, but it is my opportunity, our opportunity to say to you, please help us recover from such ugly month. And check out our website, keepfishkeeping.com. Got all kinds of great things on there. Live betas, Lisa's snails, all of the aquarium supplies you could ever need, and Tropica plants. They're the best in the business. There you go. That's our update. Our update to you is you should check out our website. There we go.
I plan on bringing in some more snails, though. I breed my own right now, but I was thinking about bringing in something that I can't breed, like the nearite snails. So let me know what you think about that, because I think it would be nice to bring something different in.
We have been shipping a whole lot of snails. It's been crazy.
And I'm so happy about that because I was getting completely overrun with snails because I don't know if it's just snails being snails or we've got the best water for snails. I don't know, but they breed like crazy here.
Yeah, you know, on the topic of snails, I had no intention of talking about this today, but it's a perfect segue to actually talk a little bit about snails because we are in the plant business. We sell Tropica plants. We do have a couple of plants that we get from other vendors also, and these are plants that we cannot get from Tropica. The Tropica North America is in Canada. They're in Vancouver, actually. And when they ship us plants, there's certain plants that they cannot ship across the border, like Java fern, Vallisneria is another one that they can't.
Amazon swords.
Swords, yeah. And so we do get those from other areas. But when you're in the business of plants, you do run into snails. And they are something that they are the bane of my existence sometimes. Little bladder snails that will infiltrate these plants, and they all of a sudden they just appear out of nowhere. A common question that we get is, are your plants snail free? And I wish we could guarantee that they are 100% free of snails. If we ever see snails, we remove them, we get them out. I inspect every single plant before I bag it up to ship it to you. You know, if there is a snail, we pick them off, and you don't want to know what I do with them. Sometimes
I'll go in and actually save the snails from that.
Yeah, she goes in there, and anytime she sees them, she takes them out, puts them into tanks, because we actually sell bladder snails. And so, you know, if she can save them, but sometimes I'll be like, you little, no, throw them in the trash can, and it just makes me mad. But because I try my best to keep the plant room perfect all the time. And if I see one in there, I get really, really angry. But there is no way. I should rephrase that. Yeah. See, you stole my thunder there. There is only one way. to guarantee snails, but no snails. But if you are buying stem plants or you're buying plants that are in bunches, I didn't mean to say stem plants. I should say potted plants. There's no way to guarantee that they will never, ever, ever be snail free. But there is a way that you can get live plants that are 100% guaranteed to be snail free. And Lisa already spoiled it. Those would be the tissue cultures. We have quite a few that we sell that are quite literally grown in a lab at Tropica. And they ship those to us. We make them available to you. They come in an adorable little cup. We've used so many of these. They are baby plants for the most part. If you're buying things like Bacopa, crypts, things like that, they're going to be very small little baby plants that were grown in laboratory conditions. And they are absolutely guaranteed to be free of snails. We sell a ton of them. We've used a ton of them. We love them.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's the way to do it. You're not going to get snails from us unless you buy snails from us. But there is the rare occasion where one might slip through the cracks. We're sorry about that. But the only way to guarantee that won't happen is with tissue cultures.
And I was going to say with the tissue cultures, they may be small, but they do grow pretty fast. They don't stay teeny tiny for long.
Yeah, absolutely. I've used quite a bit of the mosses, the taxophyllum, things like that.
Yes.
They do extremely well. You get a cup full of it, and it's just amazing. So
really, that's all you need is a cup, because a cup goes a long way. It grows fast.
Yep.
My shrimp tank that I did the moss wall on, all three of the sides, I used 2 cups of it, maybe 3 cups of it, and I didn't even need that much.
Yep. Yeah, it grows really fast. I used it in my Izzy tank, and it's.
I'm constantly cutting that back for you. I took over the Izzy tank, by the way.
No, we need to expand on that. Now, if you don't know the Izzy tank, that is it's actually the tank that I moved into my bathroom, but we originally set it up in the second floor of our house. It was going to be like a little studio area, which we don't use anymore. We only used it for like a month. Our granddaughter's name is Isley. Lisa nicknamed her Izzy, so I named the tank after her because she was born the same month that I did that tank. Lisa walks by that tank 10 times a day. I had just moved it down into the not laundry room. Why did I say laundry room? Bathroom. Yes, I put it in my bathroom. I did a video all about it if you don't believe me.
Because I will not walk in the laundry room 10 times a day. That is for sure.
I do, to let the dogs out. But anyway, she kept walking by that tank, and I wasn't keeping it up to her standards. It wasn't the way she believed it should be. So she said, you know what? I'm taking over this tank. And what do you think I'm going to say? No, please don't do that. No. I said, okay, you go knock yourself out. Go ahead.
I saw you vacuuming the substrate, and that really ticked me off.
I did that. I don't remember why I did that, but there was something in it.
I think it had to do with like that silly Amazon thing that you bought for.
Oh, that might have been what it was. It was testing out that thing. Yeah.
Because I was like, no, don't vacuum the substrate in a Planet Aquarium.
I know. There was stuff in the substrate though, which is why I did. But anyway, who cares about all of that? She did take over that tank, not because of my laziness, not because I wasn't doing anything with it, simply because she wasn't satisfied with what I was doing.
And there was algae that I didn't like. Hair algae.
Yeah. And she has put 150 snails in there, 150 shrimps, and there's all kinds of life in there. There's even a guppy in there now that we don't even know how ended up in that tank.
It got in there because of the shrimp I put in there. I think I scooped it up with the shrimp when I was bringing them up to the house. But there's actually only 3 snails. 2 mystery and 1 very large bladder snail.
Yeah,
I named him
very
Bubba.
large.
Because he's like that big.
So yeah, that's she's taking care of the Izzy tank now, and it's kind of cute. You just go in there and play around with it pretty much every day. She messes with it because you have to walk through. You don't have to, but we walk through the bathroom where that tank is to get to my office, and she walks through there to bother me in my office 50 times a day.
Oh, stop.
And so she will stop by and fiddle around with the tank, and it's wonderful, and it's looking very, very good. By the way,
Thank you. It's all about balance.
Yep. We're going to talk a lot about that today in our main topic. Once again, just like last week, the main topic today came from the members Discord, the channel members. We have channel members on our website, memberships available on our website. And one of the perks is that you get access to the members only Discord server. And we have a section in there set up for people to put up their ideas for this podcast. And Brenda S. did just that.
That would be Brenda Schroeder, I believe.
Okay. I copied the name directly from the comment, and it just said Brenda S. So, yeah, there you go. The comment was this. I wonder if you could talk sometime about having a cycle crash on an established tank. I removed all the driftwood out of my tank because it was breaking down, and now I'm struggling with nitrates getting too high and too fast. Yes, we can. We can certainly talk about that, but this is a topic that it goes deeper than that. I would be doing the community a disservice if all we did was talk about your tank, Brenda. Instead, let's talk big picture here. And let's talk about the dreaded surprise tank crash, or what no, I'm not going to say this title yet. I'm going to hold off here, because what I want to do is I want to run a scenario by you. This is how I like to start with topics, is a scenario. And this is a very, very common thing that happens in our community. You set up your tank, and listen, the majority of fish keepers, folks, are not wackos like us. They are people that have an aquarium in their house. They enjoy it. They like it. It is part of their decor in their home, but it is not their lifestyle like it is for us.
And some other people that are really, really into fish keeping.
Yeah. I mean, I say us. When I say us, I'm talking to about
the community,
the two of us and everybody watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you are listening to a podcast about aquariums, or you are watching videos like this about aquariums, you are a crazy person, just like me and just like my beautiful wife. But most people are not like us. Most people have an aquarium. It's just something that they have. It's just another part of their home decor, or they set it up for their child and then their child lost interest, or whatever it is. The majority of fish keepers are those type of people. They're not aquarists. They just have an aquarium. And so it's very common with those types of aquarium keepers, fish keepers. They still qualify as fish keepers. They're not as into it as we are. And so what they like to do is have the aquarium, have it look nice, not have any problems, and that's just what it is. So they feed their fish every day, maybe twice a day. The kids walk up and they tap it and they say, fishy, 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 and they love it, and everybody's happy. And then every once in a while, they go to the kitchen and they fill up a pitcher of water and they put it into the tank because the filter was making too much noise because the water got down too low. That's the bulk of people in this hobby.
That sounds like somebody I know.
Who?
David and I, they.
There you go. These are people, well, one of them was raised in a fish keeper household, and that's how they do fine. Their fish are happy, and, the kids love it and all of that. But they are not fish keepers. They
Right.
just have fish, which is why you just said they're one of those people. So what'll end up happening is one of those type of people will have their aquarium set up. Maybe they have, who cares how many fish, and they have some plants in there and a SpongeBob thing, which they
Yes.
literally have a SpongeBob
They do.
pineapple house in their tank.
I had to make, I made some, well, I didn't make it, but it was driftwood and a couple of them, and I put some Anubias on there for them and took it to them so that there was at least some kind of plants in there.
Yeah, because We upgraded their 5-gallon Fluval
It was
tank.
7.
Okay. They had 2 goldfish in a little Fluval 7-gallon. We upgraded them to a whopping 20-gallon for our youngest grandson's birthday.
Yeah. And they're just little teeny goldfish. And they know when they get to be bigger, they know where to bring them. So
They can bring them here. We've got somewhere where we can put them right now. And when this goes live, there might be another place that we can put them. But we won't talk about all that. The point is, what these people, including our oldest son, what they do is it's just there. They don't want there to be any problems. And if there are problems, they call us. But
yeah.
for the average fish keeper, if there are problems, they'll do one of two things. They'll go to the old Google machine and they'll type it into the internet.com, what's wrong with my fish, or they'll go to their fish store or mom and pop store, big box store, whatever. So what happens is they're going through this normal routine of topping off the water when it gets low, feeding their fish, and that's pretty much all they're doing. And everything's fine. And everything's fine for a really long time. And then all of a sudden, it's not. And their fish are starting to show symptoms of being unhappy, or they're just a little slow. Or another thing that's very common is the tank's been running for months and months and months, and everything's fine. They're going through their normal routine, and they're at the pet store, and they see these cute little tetras, and they're like, oh, cute. Let's get some of those. There's room in our tank. They bring those home. And all of those little tetras die within a day. The fish that have been in there, they're fine. But these tetras that we put in there, they all died. They must be bad fish from the fish store. Or there could be something else going on here. And that's what brings me to, I know this is not Brenda's issue. We're going to get to Brenda's issue. But this is a very common issue that happens. And so the new fish that they got, they died. The other fish, they don't look very good. They're just kind of slow, but everybody's alive. I don't understand what's going on in my tank.
They've adapted to the crappy tank.
That's very true. So what they do is they take a little cup of water and they take it to their fish store, and the fish store tests it out, and they're like, whoa, all of the levels are through the roof. You have, and this is the title I was delaying before, and the name I was gonna say before, you have old tank syndrome. I almost said new tank syndrome. Why would I have said that? You have old tank syndrome. And you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, my tank is older, but there's a syndrome. I don't know who started this old tank syndrome thing. I don't know where that came from. I guess it's just an easy way, or a more politically correct, because everybody's so fragile now in 2023. It's a less abrasive way of saying lazy person's tank syndrome, because what's happened is that you're not taking care of your aquarium. Sure, you're putting fresh water in there. That should be good, right? No, it's not. You're not taking care of the tank. You're not maintaining the filter. You're not cleaning up the waste from the fish. You're just basically letting the tank run. You're feeding your fish. The water is getting old. It's getting stale. The nitrates are going up. The pH is dropping. Everything is happening in there. And what's happening to the fish that are in the tank? You just spoiled it. The fish that are in there are slowly adapting, because it's not like this happens overnight. All of a sudden your nitrates spike. It can happen, but
Right.
usually when we're talking about old tank syndrome, your nitrates are slowly elevating and your pH is slowly going down. I wanted to think of what's the opposite of elevating? Who cares? Your pH is going down, your nitrates are going up, and your fish are adapting to that.
It kind of reminds me of living in a home with smokers. Like,
That's a great example.
when I was younger, I grew up in a household with my mom and her boyfriend being smokers. I hated it. I couldn't stand cigarette smoke. My room, I could get away from it by going into my room, but I got kind of used to it. I didn't like it. It affected my lungs, and I had a lot of asthma problems. But when I got out of that house, I started to feel better, and I had less problems with asthma. Now, as an adult, if I walk into a room where there's cigarette smoke, I'm just like, I can't even stand it, to where, before I kind of could deal with it though. And I just had really bad lungs. So,
Yep.
but now I can't do it at all.
Well, and I remember when I had my job going into people's houses every day, the instant I walked into a house that were smokers, you just
Yeah.
know it. They don't know it. I mean, they know they're smoking in there, but they don't know that their house has a smell because they're in there all day long. And here's another great example of that. This is probably the best example of people adapting to their environment and not realizing that their environment is funky. Go into a 15-year-old boy's bedroom.
Oh.
I've raised two of them, and both of them, when they were 15, it's probably 13 to like 16, and then they start to like realize,
girls, and
there
they
might
have
be
to smell
a girl.
better.
Yeah. And they start to realize that they need to take care of that. But in that time period, you can walk into that room and instantly want to vomit. Anybody that has a teenage son knows they don't have a clue how horrible their room smells. To them, it's normal. But
Or any child that's an athlete.
well, yeah.
Because they get into a car with a bunch of girls that just played field hockey after a game, and you have to take them home 45 minutes because you decided to be the nice mom and not make them ride on the bus. That can be a regretful situation.
Yeah. But again, they don't know they reek.
Ugh.
But as soon as they get in the car, or as soon as you go into the teenage boy's bedroom, teenage girls, not so much. They might stink in the car on the way home from a field hockey game, but their bedrooms, no, it's not like that. Boys, we've done it twice, and both of them
Stink.
the exact same way.
Stink.
They reek at that. Not only do they reek, but their bedrooms reek. They smell like the bottom of a foot. But they don't realize that. They've adapted to it. To them, it smells completely normal. That's what's going on in an aquarium that has old tank syndrome. The fish have slowly adapted to that. It's not good for them. They're not happy in it, but they've slowly adapted to that, and they don't realize that their aquarium smells like a teenage boy's bedroom.
And that could be from uneaten food because they decided to shove their bowls of food that they finished eating, or you know what I mean, their plates that they were too lazy to take down and stick in the kitchen, they shoved it underneath of their beds. So the best way to take care of that situation is to remove the bed frame. So they can't do that anymore.
This has been done.
It has been done
before.
in my home. David.
We've got stories with David that are way worse than that, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to take it that far. But that's what's happening in your aquarium. And so this is why when you go and you pick up those 3 cute little tetras that were on sale at PetSmart and you bring them home and you put them in there, those fish aren't adapted to that stinky bedroom of your teenager. You put those fish in there and they die. And then you start going on Yelp and putting up bad reviews. PetSmart's fish are terrible. No, you're a terrible fish keeper. That's why that happened. Not you, Brenda.
And not
Obviously not you.
everybody and not every situation either.
No, that's very true. But that scenario that I just laid out for you, that is the fault of the fish keeper, not the fish, and certainly not PetSmart. Now, when you take your sample of water to PetSmart because you just had your fish die, you just bought fish from them, they died within a day. You go to PetSmart with a sample and they look at it and your nitrates are through the roof and your pH is super low, and they tell you that you have old tank syndrome. And I don't like when people are told that you have old tank syndrome, so go look up old tank syndrome and fix it. No, there's a real simple thing. If your tank has old tank syndrome, it's because you're not doing your job. Not you, Brenda. I have to keep reiterating that. Not you, Brenda, but somebody who runs into a scenario where you're starting to get in your search results or getting people telling you old tank syndrome. It's because you are not doing your job. You're not doing any of the things that we preach on this channel constantly about doing your maintenance. I understand there's people out there telling you you don't have to do water changes. You do. Most of us do. There are situations where you don't have to do water changes, but probably 95% of aquariums, probably even more than that are in this hobby, you have to do maintenance. You have to do water changes. Topping off is not acceptable. It might be acceptable if you have 2 fish in a 29-gallon tank and a really good filter on it and you're barely feeding them anything. You might be able to get away for a long time without doing them. But under normal circumstances, you have to do your water changes.
I mean, I even go through, like a lot of my Planet aquariums, I do top offs. But that's because,
because those tanks are part of the 5% that I was talking about that don't.
But I do water changes just less often than I would in some of the other aquariums that I have. So even though I still just do top offs on those, I might only do water changes once a month, and it's a very, very small amount because I still know I need to change the water out a little bit. I don't vacuum the substrate, but I do change the water.
Yep. Whether you're somebody that just has an aquarium, you're one of the majority of fish keepers, you just have an aquarium in your house, or you're a crazy fish keeper like us, you have to do your maintenance. If you don't, you will end up with this scenario. Or, that's actually the good result.
Mm-hmm.
Old tank syndrome is the good side of what could possibly happen if you don't do your maintenance on your aquarium, because your fish adapt. They're not dying. They're not happy, but they're not dying. They're surviving in that room full of smoke. The alternative to that is they just die. But either way, it happened because of your lack of maintenance. And that's that.
Lack of maintenance is definitely one of the things, but also lack of maintenance. And then you decide you want to redecorate your tank, but you don't do water changes. You just redecorate. You lift up this rock and you stick it over there and you put this decoration over there. What are you doing? You're stirring up a lot of bad stuff and it's getting in the water, and now you're going to have a problem.
Absolutely. So we have to be on our maintenance. If we do our maintenance, you might only have to do it once a month to keep the fish healthy. But if we're up on our maintenance, you will never be told you have old tank syndrome. Okay. I felt like whenever we're talking about tanks crashing, I feel like old tank syndrome is one of those things that has to be brought up. But what is a tank crash? Again, not exactly Brenda's situation, because what can happen is that person that had what became old tank syndrome, if they did not do anything about that, if they just let it go and just let it do its thing, eventually it's just going to explode. And I don't mean literally explode. I just mean the tank is going to crash because the bacteria dies off. It can't control what's in there. Your nitrates go through the roof. Your fish are sick. And you're throwing more and more and more food in there. Eventually it becomes too much for the ecosystem in your aquarium to handle, and everything just crashes.
And the only thing you're going to have left is the Playco that you shouldn't have had in there to begin with in your 10-gallon tank.
That's so true. That is so true. Some of those plecos, you could take them out of the tank, throw them up in the air, hit them with a baseball bat, then stomp them, and then put them back in the tank, and they'd still live another 5 years. Don't do that. But that's how strong those fish are. They can tolerate just about anything. But that will inevitably happen if you go past that old tank syndrome zone. You haven't realized there's a problem and it just happens out of nowhere, and you're going to say, oh, I mean, everything was fine, and then all of a sudden everybody just died and it all happened at once. Well, that's because you lost control of your maintenance. You weren't doing what you were supposed to do, and nature ran its course. That's what happened there. That would be, in the extreme case, after old tank syndrome. It's your fault. You didn't do your maintenance. Not you, Brenda. You didn't do your maintenance, and the tank just crashed from that. So here's the easy thing. Again, we're not to Brenda yet. How do you prevent this from happening? Don't be lazy. That's how you prevent it from happening. Do your maintenance. You don't have to be one of these, most of us don't need to be one of these militant people that is doing a 75% water change twice a week. And you don't have to do that. You do what your aquarium requires you to do. So if you have a 29-gallon tank in your living room that your 9-year-old got because of a good report card, you put a few tetras in there and some Cory cats and everybody's happy. You might only have to maintain that tank once a month.
Yeah.
You take out 30% of the water, replace it between those water changes you're topping off. Topping off is not a terrible thing as long as you're doing all of the other things that you're supposed to be doing. Then you should never run into this problem, because you're removing those things that are contaminating the aquarium, that are too much for the bacteria to handle. You're removing that, replacing it with good, clean water. Everything stays balanced. You don't have to worry about old tank syndrome or your tank crashing. It's as simple as that.
And I think, too, something to keep in mind is if you are somebody that's not doing a lot of water changes, and you are doing mostly just top-offs and, that once-in-a-while water change, keep up with your filters more. I think that's when you should keep up with your filtration system more, making sure that things are clean and not all clogged up. Because if you're not doing the work you should be doing, at least make sure your filter is. And that doesn't mean that the filter should be the only thing doing anything. But I know that for me, because of the way I maintain my aquariums, I don't have to do as much work on my filters and stuff, because I'm doing it more. So,
because at the end of the day,
there's a balance.
Okay, this is gross, but when you do that filter maintenance, even if you have a marine land and all you're doing is replacing those cartridges, you don't have to replace them every month. Take them out, clean them off, put them back in.
That's a waste of money. Don't replace filter cartridges all the time.
They do wear out and they need to be replaced, and the carbon is no longer good. And you can't go a lifetime with those cartridges in, but you don't have to replace them every month. When you pull that filter out and it's all brown and it looks like it's covered in mud, what is that? What is that nasty brown?
Poop.
It's poop. It's some of it's uneaten food and the rest of it is digested food, and it's disgusting. And so when your sponge gets completely coated in that, you're just drawing the water through that, barely, because it's all clogged up. What do you think is going to happen? Their filter is obviously not as efficient as it could be because it's having to pull stuff through all of that nasty poop. But all of those nitrate causing nastiness, that's all there, and it's just sitting there. And if you're not pulling that out and either cleaning it off or replacing it when it needs to be done, then that's leading to this problem.
That's why I like the titles, because the sponges, there's so much, I don't know, it's just, I like the titles because you can clean the sponges. You don't have to go out and replace them as often as that. The cartridges, that they remind me of cotton, and they just dissolve after a while.
And it's very thin. The foam is the replaceable cartridges, like the Marine Lands and the Aquariums, are very thin. I'm not saying they're bad.
No,
they're good.
They're good.
But it's very, very thin blue foam.
I've replaced them with I've made my own,
Sure.
I take sponge, and I forget what it's called, but I've cut it and I've stuck it down in there myself and just made my own cartridge.
Absolutely. And that, a lot of fish keepers end up getting into that DIY stuff. Crazy people like us do that. Again, the people who just
Save
have
money.
it's true. The people who just have an aquarium in the corner, they're the ones that are buying the replacement cartridges. And I encourage them to do that. That's who this is for. Are those people that don't want to fool with it. They just want to easy replace that out. We're good to go. If you're not doing that and all you're doing is topping off, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for a crash. You're asking for old tank syndrome. You're asking for all of that. So you, at this point, now that we've had a talk, not you, Brenda, we can't be surprised when our fish start dying off, because now if you're not up on your maintenance, you're killing your fish. When you signed on the dotted line to get that glass box, fill it full of water, and put little lives in there, you took responsibility for those lives, and it is your responsibility to do what needs to be done to keep those not just alive. Being alive is not a sign of a happy fish, but happy and thriving. That's what you need to do for your fish. Okay, let me step off of my soapbox. We've talked about the crashes. We've talked about old tank syndrome. What about Brenda's situation? Well, once again, my beautiful wife has already spoiled.
I did?
You did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You like to do that. You like to come in and you like to steal my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
But that's why I love you. That's why we have you around.
Thanks.
So what's happening here, and this is common, Brenda's situation, you have a tank that's been running for a while and everything looks good and, the fish are thriving and everything's great, but something's going on in there. In her case, the driftwood was breaking down. It happens. It's a natural product. If you have plecos in there, they're going to be nibbling on it. Not all plecos, but a lot of plecos will be nibbling on it and wearing it down. And before you know it, it's, a nasty pile of rubble that you have to pull out of there. And when you go to pull that out, where you stole the thunder is, you're now releasing all of that. You're releasing all of that garbage and that nonsense that was from there. This is not your fault. It's not like you've done anything wrong. I suppose if I really wanted to nitpick you, Brenda, which I don't, but if I really wanted to, I could say, maybe you left the driftwood in there too long. Maybe if you had gotten it out of there sooner, it's not the driftwood's fault, but it's what happened because of the driftwood breaking down. You're starting to get all that stuff rotting, and it's moldy and it's fungusy and it's gross. And then you have all of the uneaten food and the waste and all of the things that accumulate down in there. And then you pull it out and it's this plume. It's this big rush of cloudy grossness that comes out. Maybe if you had taken the driftwood out earlier, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. But when I say earlier, I'm saying like a year earlier, because it's not like driftwood breaks down in a week. It's something that happens over a very, very long period of time.
I've got driftwood in my discus tank that's been in there for, we've had it for
12 years.
15 years. Yeah, 12 years.
2010. So 13 years.
13 years, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a big piece of Malaysian driftwood.
And I haven't lifted it, and since we moved here, I haven't lifted it up, so.
And it looks exactly the same today as it did when we bought it from House of Tropicals.
Gosh, that was forever ago.
We bought that from House of Tropicals for that tank 13 years ago.
Yep.
And you can't see the tank if you're listening to this.
So many different fish were in it, though.
Yeah, even if you're watching this, you can't see what we're talking about. But it's a big, big piece of Malaysian driftwood. And now, this is something, like Lisa just alluded to, that it doesn't have to be that the driftwood is breaking down. It could be that you simply moved it.
Yeah.
And you've had your tank for a long time, and maybe it's a tank that you do not need to vacuum out the substrate or can't vacuum out the substrate. Things are going to be accumulating around that. And then you go to pull that out, and it just releases all of that. It's been at bay. It's been handled by the ecosystem in your aquarium. But when you pulled it out and released it, I can't even think of an analogy. It's like you just released it all. It was all taken care of naturally, and then you released it all.
And the best thing to do is, in a situation like that, if you know you're going to move a rock or something,
do a good cleaning.
Have a siphon ready to suck that up as you're moving the rock. It's like that's kind of the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, there are some scenarios where you've got a very well-established tank, and I'm certain that is what happened here with Brenda. It's a well-established tank. It's been flawless. Everything's great, except you have this problem in there, which is the wood it just needs to come out. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it has to come out. And, everything was great. We talked about it on last week's podcast. One of those stories, everything was fine until, everything was great until you moved that piece of driftwood, releasing all of that stuff, which was being handled. Now it's not. Now it's your problem to deal with, Brenda. This is not your fault that this happened, but now you have to deal with it. So how do you deal with it? I'm one of those people that some fish keepers hate me because they don't hate me. They hate when I say this because there are people that are against this kind of a thing, and I don't understand why. My immediate reaction would be regular water changes. Your nitrate levels are super high because of this releasing of this contaminants. In my opinion, the only resolution to something like this is frequent, large water changes. That's the only way you're going to get those nitrates to start going down. It's not going to be immediate, but doing large water changes, if your substrate is one of those substrates that can be vacuumed out, like it's a gravel like I have in here, vacuum out that substrate, start getting all of that stuff out of there that was embedded in there before, that was released when you moved that driftwood. Get in there and start to really clean that out. Do not, under any circumstances, break everything down, just tear it all down and start from scratch. You don't need to go that far. Instead, do some large, routine water changes. If your nitrates are absolutely through the roof, it wouldn't be a crazy idea to do large water changes every single day until it gets under control, until you find that balance again that you had before you moved that driftwood. And it really shouldn't take long. I mean, it should go down pretty fast with a couple of large water changes. And then whatever kind of driftwood you had in there before, don't use that kind again. You got anything else? I mean, that's a quick main topic, but we're through it already.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you've covered a lot. One of the things that I think helps with the problems like that too is having floating plants to absorb the nitrates and everything. That helps. You could end up like me and be overrun with them, though.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, plants are going to help with nitrates all the time, but if somebody was to tell you, oh, your nitrates are super high because you moved that driftwood, well, just throw a bunch of plants in there and it'll be fine. Don't do that. Get it under control first, and then add your plants.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, having those in there helps to.
Of course it does, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying using plants to solve the high nitrates problem, I would not.
I'm not saying, your crypts and stuff that you would stick down in the substrate, those kind. I'm talking about the ones that absorb, that get their nutrients from the water. That's what I'm talking about.
And
your nubias, your redroot floaters,
sure.
Even your duckweed is good stuff.
I'm agreeing with you 100%, but we're not on the same page here. What I'm saying is, if Brenda was to reach out to somebody and they said, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry, you don't have to do a bunch of water changes or anything, just throw a bunch of plants in there and the nitrates will go away. That's what I'm saying. Nitrates or plants are great at removal of nitrates. but you're not going to throw a bundle of plants in when you have a problem like Brenda's, and the problem's going to go away because you threw a bunch of plants in there. That's what I was trying to say.
My word of the day seems to be balance. You have to find the balance.
Yes. I had a plan, and this was a great plan, and we still may do it someday. I was going to do a video. We were going to do a video all about balance. And I was going to start the video off. I had this all planned out. You and I were going to reenact the scene when Mr. Miyagi gives Daniel's son his car for his birthday.
I remember
and then
that.
he sits at the window and he gives Daniel a little lesson on balance. We were going to reenact that, and it was going to be so much fun. The thumbnail was going to be Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, but I just couldn't get the video to work out. We didn't film anything for it. I'm somebody that does a lot of planning and mapping out of videos prior to filming them, and I just couldn't get it to work out. But someday we may still do that. But balance is absolutely critical, and it is worthy.
As long as you're Mr. Miyagi and I'm Danielson.
Definitely was going to be. I was going to be Mr. Miyagi saying, remember the lesson about balance? Yeah. I mean, I had it all worked out. I memorized the script and everything. It was perfect.
Can I do karate?
Sure.
It'd be kind of funny.
There is nothing sexier than a woman that can kick some ass. So I wouldn't have no problem with you taking karate lessons.
I didn't say I was going to look good doing it. It might actually be really funny.
Well, you never know. So yeah, there you go. Keep the tank balanced. And it is now time for your favorite segment, Comment of the Week.
Oh, okay. So the comment of the week comes from Lisa Stevens 128, and it was on the podcast that you did, My Way or the Highway Aquarium Snob. So it's pretty recent. Lisa said, there's a local shop I've started frequenting, but I'm reconsidering as they claim all people on YouTube have no idea what they're talking about. In parentheses, she says, that would include you, John and Lisa. And they told me that betas are just fine in 1-gallon tanks. They've been in business for 50 years, but I'm not sure they're giving good advice. Well,
we could have done the whole podcast on that comment.
the interesting thing is there are people that have had fish stores for a very long time, and they don't believe in YouTube videos. We've been to fish stores like that. They think people on YouTube don't know anything. Yep. And you know what? There are some that don't. They just look up things on Google and copy it and do a video based on what they looked up on Google without having experience with it or anything like that. But there are people on YouTube that do know what they're talking about, that have experience, that are sharing their knowledge, that have done a massive amount of research, and they are good people to go to get, advice from. So it's a shame that there are fish stores that are poo-pooing on, YouTube in that way. I could see it if they were like, this channel really sucks. You shouldn't get advice from them, because they have no idea what they're talking about. And they back that up with, this channel is actually really good, but to just say across the line that everybody on YouTube has no idea what they're talking about, that's just wrong. That's like us saying, that would be like us saying, Petco and PetSmart, every single store sucks.
Right.
Just because of one or two stores that we may not have had a good experience in. Or, because some Petcos and PetSmarts are bad, but some are really good. And I think it's sad when you hear people say that those big box stores are bad just because they've had a bad experience with the one in their area. I just don't think that's fair. And I thank Lisa for bringing that to our attention.
Okay. Obviously, I'm against that comment. Not Lisa. I'm against what the store said that she was commenting about. However,
obviously, because they say betas can just be in 1 gallon tanks.
I mean, obviously, yeah, that's BS. We all know that. But it would be very easy with some of the content that's out there. If a old timer, which I'm almost there. If an old timer goes on YouTube and says, let me go on this fancy Google machine and see what these people are talking about, and they end up coming across these jackasses in Florida that
I know some of the ones you're talking about.
Goldfish down water slides and do all of this idiotic stuff, I would absolutely feel the exact same way
Right. Yes.
as those old timers did. If they come across a channel that likes to educate, like we try to do, and there's a lot of channels like ours out there. I'm not going to name any because I don't want to forget some and then get in trouble with my friends. But there's a lot of channels that are educating, and they've revolved their content around that. Not just, hey, I got a new fish. Hey, I'm sending these fish down a water slide. Hey, I'm stupid. It's more than that. It's more than showing off stuff. It's educating the people on how to handle tank crashes, how to prevent tank crashes. You know, if they were to say none of those people know what they're talking about, well, then that's just because they're old and they're biased and they want you getting your advice from them. And it also helps them if you follow their advice that they know is right. You're not going to kill your fish, and you're not going to come back and want refunds because you killed your fish. I mean, listen, it's 2023. If you're not online, then you are prehistoric, and you're missing out on a lot of really good stuff. A lot of bad stuff too. So I can't deny that. There's a lot of moronic stuff that happens on YouTube. Hopefully not from us. So I can't argue with that part of it. But to say all of it is bad, well, that's just ridiculous. So.
And I do want to say one thing as far as the betas in a 1 gallon tank.
Yeah, don't do it.
Well, there are situations where a beta in a 1 gallon tank is okay. And that's being, like if they have some kind of issue, if they are blind and they just can't get food because they're in a big aquarium and they can't find it and they need to be in a 1 gallon. Some situations it makes sense. But I'm not for that, to teach that or to educate people on keeping a beta in a 1 gallon tank. I believe in 5 gallons, and I think 10 gallons is nice. So there's that.
Yeah. All right, you ready for me to push this button right here? Are you prepared for?
Yeah.
Lisa's World.
Well, I'm really excited about this one because our fish club, Raleigh Aquarium Society, has an auction coming up. It's the fall auction. It's September 24th, and it is in Raleigh at the Ramada Inn. The registration starts at 9 a.m. and bidding starts at 10. There's going to be a bunch of fish and plants, and it's going to go on until everything is sold. So September 24th, mark your calendar, be there, and you might meet us if you come. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to go.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday, September 24th.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's it? That's it for Lisa's World?
Yeah.
I understand having to come up with more than one in one day is hard. I get it.
Well, and the thing is, if you live around Raleigh, I know people that don't live in Raleigh, like us. I know people that come to this fish club that are from Virginia. Mm-hmm. But anyways, if you live around there within 3 hours, I think that's reasonable.
We're driving 2.5.
I know. I think it's a little bit far, though, for some people. But if you do want to go to a good fish club and you want to be around a really good group of people, then go to the Raleigh Aquarium Society. It's the first Thursday of every month. It starts at 7:30, but people like to show up at 7 and kind of mingle and, do all that. And it goes on for a couple hours. They have an auction, a little auction at night after the meeting. It's so much fun. So, like I said, go there. And they also have a Facebook page, the Raleigh Aquarium Society Facebook page. And that, I have not seen anything like, nobody's rude in there. Everybody's nice. Shelly is one of the moderators, and she does an amazing job. Like, everybody answers questions, and it's just a really great group.
One of the things that I noticed about that group, the one meeting I've been to, it's not a bunch of snobs. It's not a bunch of people that make you feel like you're an idiot and talk down to you. And it's not that at all, which, that's one of the things that a lot of people, including me, were afraid of. But I showed up there, and it was just a wonderful group of people, and I had so much fun. But that's it.
I love that club.
You took enough time on Lisa's World. John's World's a long one today. It's not going to be long. But
I listened to John's World the other night, and it was pretty long.
Yeah, this one, not going to be as bad.
John's World.
But I do have something. I think I'm going to make a lot of people mad. It's kind of my job. John's World, I'm like, okay, how can I make people mad this time? Almost every single time I do John's World, it's about sports, movies, music, comic books, tools. Today, movies. A movie. I watched a movie last week. You hurt my feelings when you said you didn't want to watch it with me. This is a movie I almost didn't watch because of the actor that plays the main character. Because he's a Looney Tune. He's a madman, and he should be in prison.
Oh.
And that's sincere. I mean that. He's a brilliant actor, but he should be in jail. If you have never heard of Ezra Miller, look him up, do a Google on him, and you'll see why he should be in jail.
I'm Googling this right now.
Lisa's going to do it right now. I watched The Flash.
Oh.
Now, I'm a guy, my entire life, I've been a Superman 1, Flash 2. A lot of people are, Batman 1, Hulk 2, Superman. Superman has been my favorite ever since I saw Christopher Reeve for the first time in the first Superman movie. And I've been completely obsessed ever since. But I also love The Flash. I don't love Ezra Miller as The Flash. At first, I was okay with it when he showed up in Justice. Was it Justice League was the first time? I mean, you got to see him in Batman vs. Superman. But then it was Justice League when he was kind of introduced. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It's not my Barry Allen. He's not a goofball like Ezra Miller plays him to be. But, okay, it's fine. He can be the comic relief, and that's fine. I was very hesitant to watch The Flash because I haven't heard anything good about it. We had all this hype building up. I'm not going to spoil anything, folks. I am going to mention one thing that happens in the movie that really pissed me off. But I'm not going to spoil the movie for you. I'm not going to tell you anything that's not in the trailers. Michael Keaton is in the movie as Batman. Love Michael Keaton as Batman. A lot of people hated it because it was female Superman. It was the old man Batman. Like, first of all, there is a female Superman. Female Kryptonian. Not a female Superman. In the comics. Look it up. She's out there. And she did not bother me in this movie at all. In fact, I thought she was quite good. But there were so many negative things said about this movie. Even the Michael Keaton wasn't great in the movie and all of this kind of stuff. Everything was against me watching this movie. I don't like Ezra Miller, even though if you ever want to see a movie that is just a masterclass in acting, watch the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin. It's one of the saddest movies that's ever been made, but Ezra Miller is one of the main characters in that, and he's very, very good in that movie. Tilda Swinton is that movie, though. Anyway, I decided I was going to give it a chance. Even though everybody had so many negative things to say about it, I decided I was going to give it a chance. And I watched it the other night on HBO Max, the day it came out on HBO Max. And here's what I'm going to say that is very controversial. I really liked it.
The Flash?
Yeah.
Oh.
I enjoyed the hell out of that movie because I'm not going into movies looking to hate them like a lot of people do. A lot of people go into the Star Wars movies and they're like, oh, it's not my Star Wars. I don't like it. I don't go into the movie wanting to hate it. I am not a fan of Ezra Miller. I think he's a maniac. Like I said, I think he should be in prison. I liked him in this movie, though. I don't like silly, zany, funny Barry Allen. I want Barry Allen to be a stoic kind of guy. I don't want him to be the silly clown. But it really worked in this movie. I liked it. I'm not going to tell you it was my favorite movie ever, but I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I loved Michael Keaton in the movie. I thought it was amazing. The dude is 70. And I realized it wasn't him doing all the kicks and stuff like that. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I liked the female female Kryptonian. I don't know the actress's name. I thought she did a really good job. The two Barry Allens kind of freaked me out a little bit. The one was really annoying. You'd understand it if you watched the movie. But there is one part that really pissed me off.
Ooh, tell me. I need
And
to know.
this is just me looking at Christopher Reeve as a godlike figure. You got to understand, folks, that first movie came out in, 79, 78, when Superman 1 came out. And then Superman 2 came out and, 2 years later, whatever. Christopher Reeve was a god to me. And then it became...
He was the best.
Ralph Macchio was a god to me in the mid-'80s. And Christopher Reeve is my Superman. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. He has become my new Superman. I thought Brendan Routh did a great job playing Superman in Superman Returns. He's like a clone of Christopher Reeve. But Christopher Reeve is my Superman. And I think they did him wrong in that movie. What? What are you talking about, John? Christopher Reeve's been dead for 10 years. He wasn't in that movie. Yes, he was. And I think they did him wrong. That's the part. I'm not spoiling anything. It has nothing to do with the plot. It's not ruining anything for you. There are a lot of cameos in this movie. They're just shown on the screen. They don't have any role in the movie. All of the past, like the Jay Garrick Flash and George Reeves. A lot of people get the names confused. It's George Reeves, Christopher Reeve. There's no S at the end of his name. I'm adamant about that. George Reeves was the original Superman from the show,
the
from the TV show.
White show.
Yes. He wasn't the original, but anyway, we won't get into that. He makes an appearance. Christopher Reeve, briefly. The Supergirl makes an appearance. Again, these are all just in the background. But here's why I think they did him wrong. See, this thing happened a long, long time ago. Everybody knows this who is a fan of Superman. There was supposed to be a Superman 4. This was prior to Superman Returns. There was supposed to be a Superman movie starring, guess who, as Superman and Clark Kent? Nicolas Cage.
No.
Nicolas Cage. They started filming the movie.
Oh.
There are photos of him in the Superman suit. I'm glad they didn't make the movie. I love everything about Nicolas Cage. I've loved every movie I've ever seen Nicolas Cage in. He ain't no Superman. I'm sorry, Nick. It wouldn't have worked for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It would have worked for me about as good as Ezra Miller works for The Flash.
I just remember Nicolas Cage in Raising Arizona, and it's so hard to take him serious in all the other movies.
He was so good in Raising Arizona. It's one of my favorite Nick Cage movies. But here's the thing. This is not a spoiler. Everybody that gets these quick cameos, like Christopher Reeve, George Reeves, Jay Garrick, they're all blips, like little quick They're just kind of in the background, scrolling through, and you see them. But Nick Cage, as Superman, gets this whole action shot of him fighting a big giant spider, which makes no sense. And this was all CG, and it was all obvious. It looked like video game graphics. It was not good graphics. That was the one gripe I have with that movie. The CG was horrible. But however, you're going to give an action shot to someone who never played Superman, and then give the icon that is Christopher Reeve, he's just standing there looking down. All computer generated, obviously, because Christopher Reeve passed away. How dare you do that to Christopher Reeve? If you're going to give an action shot, it should be him, not the guy that never played Superman. Put my foot down. That pissed me off when I saw that. Wow. How dare you take the Superman, my Superman, and you just make him standing there, but Nicolas Cage gets to have his laser eyes, and he gets to fight the spider. Oh, that made me so mad. But I did enjoy the movie. Everything but that, and the CG was terrible. I play a video game called Days Gone all the time. The graphics in that game are better than the CG that was in The Flash. It was terrible, but I enjoyed the movie. Don't listen to what everybody's saying. If you enjoy superhero movies, kind of predictable superhero movies, you'll enjoy The Flash. You should watch it. There you go. End of John's World.
Wow, John's World takes a long time.
But it is your turn now. I got to calm down. It is your turn to close us out.
Well, okie dokie then. It's kind of hard to follow up on that one. But
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. And it's been fun talking about this. So let us know what you think in the comment section below, and we will keep that in mind. And your comment might be in the next podcast.
You never know.
You never know.